All right, we'll start with the review and approval of the minutes. Anyone have any comments, questions? Is there a motion to approve the minutes as sent to you for our January meeting?
I'll move to approve as provided.
Okay. Is there a
Second.
second? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, any abstentions? Okay, great, thank you. All right, we're moving right along to the correspondence part of our agenda. And Bob, do you want to do the correspondence from Friends and Foster?
I think that's lower down tonight.
Lower down.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Review and improvement. What?
Item number 6 is Friends and Foster update.
Oh, okay. Okay. It usually comes under the correspondence and, right, Diane?
Yep.
That's what was confusing me. Okay. So do we want to do it there or do we want to do it under the other Friends and Foster update?
That doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
That's up to your board.
All right. We'll move on then to the director's report.
Thank you. As always, I thought when I started to write this that not a lot has happened since our last meeting. And then as I was moving along, I thought, well, that's not true. So first of all, we had 2 Sunday closings and 1 delayed opening due to weather. And I just want to thank publicly DPW and facilities for doing a great job of cleaning out the lot and getting our walkways cleared, and for communication with them and Bud Dunham and everyone at Town Hall about making that happen. It went as smoothly as it could have been. The big news right now for me is, and I've mentioned this to all of you, is that we are going through getting a new ILS for our library, ILS being an integrated library system. And the migration update involves some intensive staff training. So all the staff have already done 5 hours of training online, and then they're being set up with practice accounts to make sure that when it goes live on April 30th, that everyone feels well equipped to use the new system. And as I have also mentioned, this also will mean not only a more robust platform for us, but a really nice new interface for patrons when placing holds or looking up items from home. And again, the live date of that will be April 30th, and there will be some downtime before then. I also attended the OCLN legislative breakfast in Plymouth. This is sort of an opportunity to both celebrate and recognize the importance of libraries in Massachusetts. They go over line items in the state budget, including state aid to public libraries. And one, Rep. X, I will say, and Senator Fernandez were there showing their support for libraries. But one of my favorite sort of quotes that they had, MBLC had put on some of the literature, was, "Every dollar saved by borrowing books, ebooks, and audiobooks free from the public library becomes a dollar freed up for groceries on the table." And I just thought that was a really nice sentiment. And of course, like, very true, very true. And I like that they were putting that out there. I also just want to mention to you that the Glasstown Cultural District Steering Committee has selected a piece of artwork that will be on the library lawn with the dedication connected to the July 1st celebration for America 250. Still working out some details about this, but it is going to be a archway, and the artist is Elfie Glover, who has stuff all around the Cape, as well as up at Heritage. And as details of that are sort of, or as things come together, I will keep all of you up to date with that. And I also want to mention that we received a donation for $5,000 to put toward adult programming. And we got this donation last year as well. And what's exciting is I've asked a number of staff who don't always do adult programming to be involved in this. So it's been a bit more staff involvement. We're trying a slightly different format. And that is that we are offering workshops in a series. So I'm gonna look at something on my screen for a moment, just to sort of say back to all of you. But so for example, sorry, in February, we're doing a decluttering sort of workshop with, and I really like the way the staff came up with this. So it's simplify your life, declutter your finances, mind, and home. So again, it's 3 separate sessions. In April, we're doing 3 sessions of Mahjong instruction. And then in May, there'll be 3 sessions. This is sort of called Preservation 101, Why Historic Buildings Matter and How to Preserve Them. And then we will pick up the series again in the fall with 3 more workshops, 3 sessions each. And again, it's been great fun for the staff to work on that. I also just want to thank a bunch of you for attending the No Spoilers book chat in January. When I saw the pictures online, I thought, well, that seems like the biggest crowd we've had with a lot of familiar faces. So I thank you kindly for your support, and I know it made the staff really happy. Coming up for February vacation, of course, we have a family blanket fort evening, which is when people come in and bring their own pillow and flashlight and can build blanket forts in the kids' room and read books in there. It's very adorable to see. For grades 4th through 9th, there's going to be an escape room happening in Glasstown called Escape the Rogue Planet. And then there's going to be an interactive puppet variety show in which kids are also going to make a sailor's Valentine's craft project. And that group is called Puppets Paul and Mary. Well, not really correct. Yeah. And then I also just want to say that throughout the library right now, both in the adult section and in the kids section, there's just a bunch of Valentine's Day displays. It's all very sweet. I always say that I'm a huge fan of Valentine's Day because what is cuter than red and pink hearts in the middle of winter? And just sort of some staff updates in general. Gosh, as always, they've been crushing it. We've been doing a large weeding project again, sort of related to the ILS update. And with a bunch of the large print that was weeded, staff had reached out to Spalding and Sham Heights to donate some of the large print books there. We had a puzzle exchange up where people could drop off jigsaw puzzles and pick ones up for free. We had another great teen event with one-up games in a room full of tween boys on one of the half days, which is not always an audience we see at the library. And Pat McKean from the Friends group is involved with the Academy for Lifelong Learning of Cape Cod out of Cape Cod Community College. And Brian from our staff hosted something called Libraries is More Than Just Books. With 17 people attending, we registered 9 more people for library cards, and they were very excited about Canopy. Also coming up, we have a very successful program, Tech Thursdays, with one-on-one tech help. And then I was talking to our archivist. She's going to do the same thing, specifically around help with ancestry. So all sort of coming soon, and we're excited about all of that. And then I also just wanted to briefly, Kathy said high level, talk about the fiscal year 27 budget. And you'll see it is up on the proposed fiscal year 27 budget is up on the town website. 2 things that I want to really bring to your attention is if you look at the document about capital projects, you will see the library mentioned a handful of times. I have not made any of these requests. They're coming from facilities, and they're related mainly to HVAC as well as the roof and front walkway. In terms of the library budget, you will see one small increase that I'm very excited about. In general, though, the budget that's listed there, the town budget is just under 1.1 million. Our actual budget is 1.2 million. There's that interfund transfer with 75,000 from Weston and then 40,000 from state aid. State aid that I just mentioned too about the library legislative breakfast. So the interfund transfers are 115. About 80% of our budget is personnel related. And the thing that I like to talk about with all of you is that our line item for books this year was increased by $2,500, which is small, but it's an important increase, bringing our books budget up to $133,500. The materials expenditure requirement from the state based on our population is 15% of our budget. So when you're doing your state aid application, you need to hit that number or 90% of that number for a reduced state aid package. Meaning for me, the goal to spend on materials every year is between, at this point, 163,000 and 181,000. Now, that is a very different number from $133,000 from the town. This is a gap that I'm hoping to close up over the next few years that hasn't been or just wasn't addressed previously.
Well, it's going to take a while at $2,500 a year.
But I agree. However, I'm happy that it's a step in the right direction. And I think we'll be able to make a bigger step soon in sort of having in talking to Bud actually today. The other thing I just want to point out, what was I just going to say? We did receive our first state aid payment the other day for $24,000 and our first of 2 Weston payments at just over $37,000. And that's sort of everything that's happening with the budget at this point. But the only increase to our operating budget is that small one, but for
Right.
the books budget.
Diane, can I ask,
Yeah.
even with the extra state aid and the Weston funding, we're still not reaching that 163,000?
Correct. That again, so that the line item for books is currently or will be proposed for fiscal year 27 at 133,500.
Yeah, Weston doesn't count towards that, right? Nor should it.
No, what ends up happening is that I will spend the amount we're supposed to spend, and that difference will come out of any Weston money that's been left over from previous years, or any amount of state aid that's been left over, potentially gift donations. It really will depend on what it looks like toward the end of the year. Sometimes it may also be technically coming from the personnel part, depending if there was someone that left a position or a new person was hired. It depends.
So,
Jeannie?
as a minimum, that's a $30,000 difference?
Yes.
Okay.
And I also want to say it's wild, the number itself. I think that you picture our building's not that big and you're wondering how on earth are you spending that much money on materials? And I want to say that
Everything.
what's also challenging about this number is that state aid, the guidelines from the state do not allow us to count any programming expenses toward this. This is truly for materials. But the reality is that digital content is also expensive. So just as an example, Hoopla is pretty popular, and that people are limited to 7 borrows a month. There's different pricing structures, but traditionally, every month the Hoopla bill is around $3,000 to $3,500. So you'll see like Hoopla alone, we could spend $40,000 a year on. The teen librarian, children's librarian, and acquisitions librarian have budgets for physical materials. Overdrive Libby is pricey, but very, very popular. So that's where a lot of the budget ends up going to for digital content.
Can I ask one other thing? Under the programming, the $5,000 gift, is that
Yes.
actually covering all of the workshops? Or do we
Yes.
have to kick in? That is covering it all.
That is covering all of the workshops. And of course, the Friends always generously cover all of our requests for programming. This donation is sort of just a fun opportunity. Not that the Friends wouldn't fund this, because of course they would. It's just a fun opportunity to think about trying something new for programming because of a very generous donation.
Right. And do all the workshops, I know I looked at them online,
Mhm.
through the newsletter. So they all have like guest speakers or presenters?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Any other questions for Diane? Diane, is the 75,000 in the budget from Weston the same as last year or same as this year?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any questions? No? Okay, thank you. We'll move
Thank
on.
you.
All right, for my report, I just want to remind you that we will have one vacancy on the board. Colleen is not running again. So please, if you know anyone, let people know that there is going to be a vacancy if they're interested. As you know, they have to take papers out, you have to get 50 signatures, but we hope to have interest in that one vacancy. And I'm not exactly sure of the timing, but are papers available now? Does anyone know?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So just a reminder on that. The only other thing is I want to thank those of you who worked on the bylaws working group. Bob is going to give a report later on the agenda on the draft bylaws, and you all have received those. I know a lot of work went into it, and I just want to thank them for doing that. So that is all I have. So we'll move on to the Friends and Foster update, Bob.
Thanks, Kathy.
Mhm.
The library support groups are continuing transitions of various sorts. Foster Board was in the midst of interviewing several candidates to replenish their supply of board members. I was sitting at the table in McKnight at their last meeting between the outgoing treasurer, Sue Driscoll, and the incoming treasurer, June Murphy, and they were going through a meticulous and very conscientious handoff of some of their accounting responsibilities. They also circulated an action plan for the year. They've been getting more organized during these past 2 years. It's been quite impressive to see them pulling together early on in each of these years. They're going to begin organizing their annual fundraising drive in March, and I think the rollout of this year's campaign for them is in June. Now, with the Friends last week, they began their reduced calendar of meetings for 2025. The workflow went fine. The board approved financial requests for children's room programs like Wiggles and Giggles, Lap Babies, Duck Bucks. That's the one where the staff hides certificates and the Friends bookstore gives them discounts, and the kids just have to find them and bring them down to the bookstore. That's the most fun of the whole year, as far as I'm concerned, from working in the bookstore, is the kids coming in with their precious duck bucks, and they go over to the children's section and they peruse the books like they were buying real estate. It's just such a highlight to see them scrutinizing everything and figuring out how to spend that precious buck one way or another. They make smart choices. Let's see. So basically what I'm saying is that here again with the Friends, it was business as usual. The programs were explained, comments made, questions answered, and budgets approved. Even though the group has decided not to hold any major fundraising events other than the annual drive, they did talk about holding bake sales on some of the Saturdays when the Artisans Festival takes place on the library lawn. The board members also are gearing up for the annual Connor Award for a graduating high school senior. Diane is working with them on a plan to get the entire application process online for the first time. That should streamline things both for the judges and the applicants. So thanks, Kathy. That's my report.
Okay, great. Thank you, Bob. Any new business? Anyone would like to bring up? No? Okay. So moving on to old business. first, we'll hear from Jeannie. Any update on the Weston fundraiser you'd like to give?
Yes, Joe Maruka, who is one of the Weston trustees, and Diane and I met last week to talk about next fall's annual appeal. Joe actually has come up with some ideas in ways that we can expand the mailing list. And so we'll be working on that. He also came in with a draft letter, so we just felt that if we started to work on it in January, it would be a little more organized, and also that we're coming up with several strategies to expand the mailing list because it's really dwindled. And along with the dwindling mailing list, he had also, being on the Weston board, he had brought in a chart of the funds that had been collected over the years, and that has, although we get a very good response from the number of mailings, that amount has definitely diminished. So we'll be working on that.
If I can just add, it was a really great meeting. And I just want to thank Jeannie for all of her work on Weston, for all of you too, for giving up more addresses, coming up with ideas. For any of you that were handwriting thank you notes. But it just felt like a really productive meeting with Joe and Jeannie. And I think we have some good ideas about moving forward with it.
Great. So if you did have the assignment of thank you notes, I hope everyone did those and they're out.
I didn't hear from anyone. Some people had some questions for me, but I think that most of those got out. So
I did
I
send
also-
mine. I should have
yeah,
told you.
I also want to thank everyone for taking some of those on. And I don't know if you had any response, to the handwritten notes. I just would find, any comments interesting. Joe thought that it was a great way, to thank people because it's not done, with an actual, it's kind of a rarity that something like that would happen. So, with the amount of responses, it was definitely manageable.
Right. Thanks again, Jeannie, for all your work on that. Are there any questions for Jeannie or Diane on the Weston? No. Okay. All right. Now the working group for the bylaw revision. I hope that all of you had a chance to look at the draft bylaws that the working group put together. I hope you have it in front of you or on something, your phone or your tablet or something, so that we can have a good discussion about it. There are a lot of changes, and I'm not surprised because it's been a long time since we've actually looked at these. So I'm going to turn it over to Bob, who kind of took the lead in this group, and ask you, Bob, to kind of explain the process you went through and where we are right now. I don't expect to vote on these tonight, so we'll have a discussion about them. If you have some suggestions, the working group will take them back. And hopefully, I would hope that by the next meeting, we'd be able to vote on them. So, Bob, you want to?
Okay, Kathy, thanks very much again. I've got papers spread all over my dining room table here, plus a cup of coffee. And what I'm hoping is that, to be specific, folks have in front of them the 2 pages of the 1975 bylaws. Let's call them the Old Testament, and the draft of the potential changes to those bylaws. That's the one that has lots and lots of red stuff in it. to highlight the possibilities. But let me please begin with an overview of what our group has done in the last month. After the January meeting, the group of Gretchen, Evie, and I met for a general discussion of what we were trying to do and how we should do it. What's the purpose of updating the 75 bylaws? Well, after half a century, we should at least blow the dust off them. Laws, government structures, and technologies have changed. Beyond that, discussions of the bylaws help us focus on what we're trying to do as trustees, give us a guide to consistent behavior during our terms, we hope, and offer guidance to future generations of trustees. All the draft changes should fit at least into one of those categories. Now, my share of it was to do some research that involved looking at the State Library Commission's guidance on what bylaws should contain. And all of those, by the way, are accounted for in the draft that you're looking at. I also reviewed the revised town charter, which is waiting for final approval from the state legislature, the town bylaws, the town's public body handbook, and the 8 sample bylaws posted on the State Library Commission's website. Looking at those other bylaws, the 8 samples that the state posts, some boards are more specific than us, some less. Many documents are way longer. A few are shorter. Some are much more specific about the guidelines for public forums, for example. Some boards are more specific about the time and place of meetings. Nobody covers all the possibilities. Now, in the draft bylaws document, I especially want to call trustees' attention to Article 5, duties and responsibilities. It's the one I think will provoke the most discussion. But I also want to make clear where I'm just winging it in sentences that people might otherwise overlook. For example, please notice distinctions between a majority of trustees at a meeting and a majority of the board. Or note a proposal to change a requirement that notification must be given to notifications must be sent to all trustees at least 72 hours before. The distinction being, does the chair really have to confirm with all trustees that they're receiving a message? Some of you may think so, and we can discuss that. Also, please note that there's a brand new category. An example is of penalties for missing meetings.
Right, yes.
We haven't, our Old Testament is silent on this topic. And I went through the many bylaws, like I've been saying, and noted that there is a potential penalty for missing meetings. We're elected officials. We can't fire other elected officials. That's up to the voters. But there's kind of a moral sanction possibility. You can say something like, there's a penalty for missing meetings. Different board, let's see if I can give you the exact language. Now, let me get to that in a moment here, or maybe right now.
I feel like you read my notes, Bob.
Oh, well, good. Let me just, like I say, I've got these papers all over here, and I want to get it for you because I thought that was worthy of discussion. Now, let me hang on a minute for.
Are you looking for the part if a trustee misses the meetings? Is that what you're trying to find?
Yeah, I am, Kathy. What page is that?
Okay, it's section 5 under Article 5.
5, yeah.
Yeah, Article 5,
Yes.
section 5.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Trustees attend the monthly meetings of the board. If a trustee cannot attend, the trustee shall notify the chair. A trustee who misses 3 consecutive meetings without explanation will receive a letter from the chair reminding the trustee that regular attendance is a responsibility and that those unable to attend regularly should consider resigning. Copies of such letters shall be included in the board's minutes. And that's pretty close to a straightforward steal from one of those sample bylaws that are posted online. You all may think that's too harsh. You all may think that's too light, but that's certainly something we could discuss.
Bob, I think that's actually been a prior practice for us, for the board.
Even though it hadn't been in the bylaws.
Right, yeah.
Jeannie? Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, that's good to hear, Jeannie. It suggests to me that if we incorporate it into our bylaws formally, we're doing no more than following common practice on our board. Is that the case? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, could I make a suggestion that we don't jump into the middle? I mean, I know you're trying to point out things, Bob, that you want us to notice. I don't think you have to worry about us not noticing that. Shouldn't
No,
we approach these from the top to the bottom? Like, rather than go into the middle? I don't know. I know you're not asking us to comment now, but it's not really long. It's 2 pages. So I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you, but are you wanting us to comment on these things as you mention them, or just?
Thanks for asking, Jane. No, I
okay.
had not expected comments as I was mentioning them. What I wanted to do, as I think you suggested, is give you first an overview, but name specific types of things that I thought everybody would want to look at. Again, the biggest deal for me is going to be Article 5, or let me rephrase that. I think the biggest deal for the board is going to be Article 5, but along the way, there are some little things like, as I said, the reference to how many votes it takes to pass something, and then what obviously are going to be more obvious, again, as you say, things like a penalty for missing meetings. There was one other thing of that type that I wanted to spotlight. So let me see if I can find that. That was an example of what I thought was me just grabbing something from outer space and plunking it into this draft. And I did not know what Jeannie just told us about that already having been practiced. But that's one of the things I was hoping we could achieve by the time we're done with this, is to codify, at least to some extent, things that we were already doing, partially as a guide to the future. I remember when I came in as chair, and Jane, you may have had the same experience, is that while we were made aware of some things when we first became trustees, becoming chair was a different experience, and we had no specific manual for what the chair was supposed to do. It was all like...
Another major change probably to point out is that you took out the librarian section.
Yes.
I did take out the librarian section. Now, let me make you fully aware of what was going on here. The main thing actually was that I thought what we had was a one-page set of bylaws. It wasn't until about a week ago, in going through my files, that I discovered page 2 of the bylaws, where, as you can see, it goes over what a meeting agenda should contain. It has the librarian section, and it has the general section. So it was partly that. Evie and Gretchen and I, we traded emails on what reaction we all had to page 2. And to my recollection, none of us felt there was a significant thing there that we needed to incorporate into the draft that you're looking at. That said, Article 6, the general section, had some things about what to do to update bylaws that I had already miraculously incorporated into the draft document, just because it happens to be so common among bylaws statewide at libraries. Well, I think that's it for my general spiel. And as we've been saying, we want to hear your comments and questions and then go back and create a more polished draft for you to look at in the March meeting. Oh, Evie, is there anything you'd like to add to this?
I don't think so. I mean, I think at this point, just what you said, we really need to seek some feedback and get some ideas so we can work on making a more of a finished product.
So how about the rest of you then, please just fire away with both comments and questions.
So under,
I think in terms of process, we should, as Jane said, go back to the top.
yeah.
And start at the top and
Sure, Kathy. I
have
can do that.
you have any comments on any section, then
I do.
yeah, Mark.
I don't know if this is appropriate, but the bylaws kind of set standards for interactions and behavior within the board. The bylaws exist within a hierarchy of other documents. They exist within the hierarchy of the state, what is it, Chapter 75 or whatever, what the state assigns to the Board of Trustees as their responsibilities. And the next level down from that is the town's charter, which establishes that there is the Board of Trustees and that here are their responsibilities. And so it's nested within that the bylaws further, define, refine roles and responsibilities. And so, to stop being long-winded, should mention of those two higher documents be made within the bylaws to set context?
They are. I think they are in section 4, article 5, on some level. Maybe it's not stated exactly like you think it should. It talks more about policies, but it does say about state law, town charter, and town bylaws and ALA. But yeah, so, maybe that section needs to get maybe reworded to be more inclusive of what Mark is saying. I think you could fit it in there.
You're talking about where it says the policies posted on the library website.
Right,
Yeah.
but yeah, but it does mention those, so
Right.
to me, that was covering some of that. I'd like to see that was in there, particularly town charter, and state law. So.
Yes, I think I get what you are saying. Well, let me say it back to you, and you tell me if I'm right. That you want there to be, not necessarily in that place, but you want there to be a comprehensive statement that we, the Sandwich Library Board of Trustees, act in a manner consistent with Massachusetts state law, the town charter, the town bylaws, the Library Bill of Rights, and the Right to Read statement.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. And that it's within those contexts that we have our bylaws to govern how we act.
I'm sorry, are you adding something or modifying something with this that you're talking about now?
I think adding.
Adding, okay.
But maybe in that section.
I could come back to you with it moved higher just to highlight it. By the way, speaking of moving higher, I thought you might want to consider moving the entirety of Article 5 up much higher. You'll note the place on the first page where I struck through what used to be section 2, the part in the current bylaws that says their responsibility shall be to determine and adopt written policies to govern the library program and its physical and financial operation. Basically, Article 5 in the
Five.
draft replaces
Section
Section 2.
Section 2, yes.
Well,
So
think it could go before the meetings or where it is. I don't think it makes
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I think it's good where it is because it
Okay.
is under duties and responsibilities, you know.
Mhm.
So I think that language about town charters, state law should be put in that section, maybe under another, I mean, under that article, but perhaps in its own section.
That should be pretty easy to do. Let's see. So Mark made his general comment, which led to the discussion of Section 4 in Article 5. Would anybody else like to, or should we go back, Kathy, to the?
Why don't we go back to
Getting
the,
now?
yeah, go
Okay.
back to Article 2, yeah.
So I actually, under Article 2, Section 2, the sentence about filling vacancies, I know that that's practice. What I wasn't sure about was that when we go to those selectmen's meetings to appoint a temporary member, do we actually vote with the selectmen or do they vote? And we vote to put a candidate forward generally at our meeting, but then we go before the Board of Selectmen and it says there that it's a majority vote. It says at a joint meeting. So I just wasn't sure and I've gone to those meetings, but I don't remember. Do they only vote or do we, I mean, we put a candidate before them, but do we get to vote with them?
Yes.
Okay. And so it would really be, although it doesn't say that, it just says the majority vote. And I don't know if we should say of both boards or something, because quite often, you always ask for other trustees to be there, but
I think we vote at our board meeting to take forward the
Right.
candidate.
right, but
Then
we vote
we
with
take that
the, right, but according to this language, it implies that we are, it says a majority vote at a joint meeting. So that's,
I think she's right. That's not completely accurate. There's a majority vote at our board meeting,
Yeah.
and then there is a joint meeting, and then the select board votes.
right. So according to that, the language as written, it seems like it's a majority vote of the people that are at that selectmen's meeting, including the trustees. I mean,
Yes.
so then it would be really important for us to have as many members there as possible if there was
Yes.
if there was ever any question on, on our candidate.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes there's only 2 people at that meeting.
Yes.
So what do you think, Bob? What did you mean by that?
And is
I
that, is that practice? Do we get to vote?
Yes.
Okay.
So this doesn't reflect what we're actually doing.
Yes. It reflects
does.
what we're actually doing.
Okay, then you have to explain it, because that doesn't read like what we're actually doing to me. We did not vote. We didn't vote at that meeting last time when we were doing Lynn. We went and there were 3 or 4 trustees there and they voted.
And I mean, the way it says is the remaining trustees, or maybe it should say of the select board and the library trustees attending that meeting, something like that. I mean, it's a little confusing where it says, and the remaining trustees. I understand what it says, but it doesn't speak clearly to that. It's the select board who's there and as many members of the board of trustees as are there, so.
I have a question and a suggestion. The question is, does town charter address this at all?
Yes.
And what does town charter say?
Pretty close to what you were reading.
Okay.
What do they mean by remaining trustees?
Remaining, yeah, I was gonna ask the same question.
So also, we're not addressing the fact that as a board, we actually vote and recommend a candidate. I mean, it does not say that anywhere under that section.
Would you like to have that in, Jeannie?
I think so. I mean,
Unless we're doing
Otherwise-
it completely wrong.
right. Otherwise, how is that person put forward?
The board votes on a candidate to take to a joint meeting of the select board and the library board. Does that
Yes.
sound all right?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And representatives of the library board, because we don't get everybody there.
Right.
There's no quorum or quota of how many have to show up. Mark may remember being there with me when we voted along with the select board. Mark, it was you, me, and Bill Wagner.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
I
yeah.
think, yeah.
If there's no, if we're not having clarity, then instead of further unclarifying ourselves, I wonder if we were to decide going forward, what do we want?
I think it's not completely up to us. What this draft says is that we follow Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 41, Section 11.
Yes, which we should.
Which specifies that the vacancy is filled by a majority vote at a joint meeting of the select board and the remaining trustees, which certainly could be amended to the library board, the joint meeting of the select board and the library board. The law doesn't say this about us voting first to put forward a candidate, but I can think of no reason we cannot put that in on our own, specify that first the board votes on a candidate. The sections regarding this in many of the sample bylaws include vast sections on the notification process. The resigning trustee has to, by letter, inform the chair of the library board and the town clerk, who notifies the select board of a vacancy. It seemed to be a lot bigger section than we might absolutely need to have in our bylaws. But I could see very much the idea of putting in a sentence about how the board votes on a candidate to fill the vacancy and puts that forward to a joint meeting of the select board and the library board. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bob, also what does it say in town charter, not specifically to the library board, but any vacancies on the board as far as the selectmen? I mean, generally is there a section in there on filling a board vacancy that might clarify this, where it's not specific to us, but it's including any vacancy?
My recollection, Jeannie, is that there are many sections in the town charter and in the town bylaws that deal with the ways various boards of various types fill vacancies.
Okay.
What we are governed by, according to what I see in our local documents and in the state documents, is, as you see, Chapter 41, Section 11 of General Law.
Which the select board has accepted. So why don't we just go with that? They've accepted us bringing a candidate that has been voted on by the board, by our board.
Yeah.
And then in a joint meeting, letting them vote on it. They've been okay with that. So
Yeah. I just think that we have to put in there that, you know, we as a board vote upon a candidate to bring to the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
Because that's not clear.
Yeah, if we can just work that in, that'd be
Yeah.
probably enough.
Yes.
This is our vote to bring the candidate forward. Excuse me. Signify that our vote is for this person. Are we double voting? You know,
Well, we don't really vote in that other meeting. We're just there. We're there to represent, you know, to say this is the person who has our support, and then they
Yeah.
vote,
Jane,
right?
we vote.
We vote.
We walk up to
We vote?
the,
Okay, I don't remember voting. Maybe I'm wrong.
we walk up to the
Yeah.
podium, the dais. We sit down and the chair of the select board calls the roll. I think he goes first through the select board and then he gets to us. And I remember sitting there, I guess it was 3 times, saying, I vote aye.
Okay, then I've only been through it once, Bob, so I'm sure your memory is better than mine, so, okay,
And
fine, we vote, yeah.
my
But
memory,
But the remaining trustees are not there, only some of us are there, so we're, the 4 of us who were there the day we voted Lynn in, which is the one I attended, we were representing. The remaining trustees means the remaining who are still on the board, who haven't resigned.
yes.
And so that's who we're representing, okay, yeah,
Well,
however we can say that.
Maybe this is way too technical. I think, Jane, we are not representing our colleagues. If our colleagues want to be represented, they should be there themselves.
Well, I think since we
So,
vote, why
I
did we
think-
vote then? Why did we vote? Why did we vote in the board meeting?
To have a candidate to put forward.
Have a
Okay.
candidate.
So
why should the
somebody
4 of
said a
us
while
there?
ago, to change that to, and the library trustees attending that meeting. Would that do it?
Sure.
Yes.
Then we better get at least 2 every time, okay.
Well, we
I have-
should have 6 if we need to outvote the Board of Selectmen.
In my experience with 3 candidates, that has not been the case.
I have 2 other comments, but they're not wording changes, Bob. They're questions maybe the committee could take back and report back on a kind of a did you consider question that you'd want to, don't answer now, you can answer later. One is, did you consider addressing the concept of allowing an infinite number of terms for trustees? And did you consider, what if there are no volunteers?
Mhm.
So those are 2 questions I think maybe we should, and if we decide those are not appropriate to consider, if the group thinks that, that's okay. But those are my 2 comments on the Article 2, because I completely missed what Jeannie caught. So, just did you consider?
Jane, when you referred to infinite terms, were you saying we should consider term limits?
It's,
Okay.
Did you consider? And I humbly say that in front of my colleagues who have devoted so much of their lives to this board. But I really am just interested, did you think about it? Did you say, yeah, we don't want that, you know, or is it not allowed? Or I wondered if you even considered it. So that was.
is it in any other part of the
Right, that's
charter
kind
for
of
any
what I
other
was thinking
boards?
about. I didn't expect to answer it here. I just wondered if you had thought about it.
Yeah, I
That's
think we
weird.
need some research because
Yeah.
there may be something that says
Right.
you can't limit, you know,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Okay,
Kathy,
you can move on. So that's other space. People have comments.
What, Bob?
there are some sample charters, sample bylaws for libraries that do contain term limits. There's nothing about this type of term limit in the town charter, town bylaws, or as far as I know, in the general law.
Okay.
And we to answer Jane's question briefly, we did not consider the idea of term limits, but we certainly can. This type of term limit, I mean.
Which is kind of funny if I'm also asking about what if we don't have volunteers? So why would we be putting term limits if we don't have enough volunteers? Yeah, I get it, but yeah, okay. That's all I had on Article 2.
Can we move on to officers, that section? And I would say if you have ideas or you have comments after this meeting, then just get them to either Bob or Evie or,
I know, I almost wondered if we shouldn't submit these in writing. I mean, this could take another 3 hours to go through if we do it this way, but I mean, I'm already editing my comments because I don't want to be here till 10 o'clock at night. Like,
no, I suggest that we do this like another 10 minutes. And then we can do it again at the next meeting, or you can submit your comments. But I think it is helpful to have some discussion
yeah,
because,
I do too. I do too.
you know, doing it by yourself, you might read something and you say, oh, that sounds good, you know. But then when you hear other considerations and other comments, then it kind of makes things click in your mind.
Yeah.
So in terms of the offices, I think we've changed the offices now to chair and vice chair, which is
Correct.
what we have rather than what was in the old bylaws.
Chair
Boy,
secretary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob, back to kind of what you're talking about, the majority vote. On the very first sentence, you say the chair and vice chair elected by the majority vote of the trustees at their first meeting. Isn't that one that should say at the trustees who are present at the first meeting? Because what if everybody's not there? Majority of the trustees, what if they're not, what if?
It's majority vote.
Us?
It's majority vote.
By majority vote.
Vote.
Okay, so that implies whoever's there.
Right.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Okay, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
And then I had a question about committee, because I thought at one point, and Bob, you know this better than I do, the reason I started calling our groups working groups, because I thought committee had a certain meaning that implied a lot more formality than I wanted for temporary working groups. Am I wrong about that? And we had these temporary, a number of projects where we were just going to have short-term temporary projects, and I calling them working groups.
Working groups.
Because I thought that committee had a special meaning that required more formality. And I could be wrong about that.
I also thought that, Jane, because I thought if we were a committee, then we might have to go through posting of agendas like we did.
That's
like
what it was.
For hiring, you know, that was a very formal committee where the working groups, you know, get together, but like even for this, they don't have to post anything.
And that doesn't mean, this doesn't mean, maybe for committees, we still want exactly what's written here. Maybe that is what we want for committees. And as long as that doesn't keep us from having very short-term
working groups.
Working groups. I won't say short-term temporary, that's the same thing. Short-term working groups that would come together, work on something like the bylaws. This is not a committee, this is a working group. And I'm okay with all this wording as long as it doesn't. So again, maybe that's just something to consider. I don't think it would keep us from doing working groups. But
maybe we just want to add and or working groups, like appoint committees and or
working. Or do the bylaws even have to address working groups? Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't have to address working groups.
Let me point out to you that this exact language has existed in the bylaws for half a century and apparently has not caused us any problem.
Right.
So the reason I left it alone was on the grounds of if it ain't broken, don't fix it.
Agree. Okay.
Okay. All right. So that's a committee is different than a working group.
Right. Great. Okay. Good. I'm good with that then.
And Jane, I do remember the discussion we had way back when, exactly like you're saying. I think that this was in the aftermath of our experience with the search committee, which has very, very specific rules under the open meeting law, as opposed to something like an ad hoc group to do the bylaws, for example.
Okay, got it. Okay. Yep. And then my only other comment in this article was we're now sort of codifying vice chair and chair only serving two. We're not allowing anybody to serve more than 2 years. That's new, right? Before it was just by practice, because this wasn't in the old bylaws.
It wasn't, but I think it's in town charter.
It is, Jeannie, in the new version of the town charter that is awaiting passage in the legislature.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm fine with it, but that's new. Okay.
Oh, but let me point out something back to you. I've been going over and over this stuff, and including today a couple of times reading over that particular section in the charter changes. And it refers to, in the charter, the chair or presiding officer. I realized it does not specify the vice chair. So if you all wanted, we could drop vice chair and just say that the chair may serve a maximum of 2 consecutive one-year terms in that post. Or we have the ability, the authority to do it just like it says here. The chair and vice chair serve a maximum of 2 consecutive one-year terms.
So you couldn't be a chair, as long as they're not consecutive, you could be a chair again and again and again?
Yes,
Yeah.
in other words, you could do 2 years as chair, take a year off, and come back as chair.
Or 2 years as chair, 2 years as vice chair, 2 years as chair, 2 years as vice,
Yeah.
okay.
Putin style.
I think we want that. I mean, I think we want that flexibility. Actually, I like that.
Right.
2 years in a row is enough, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. But with the chair, Jane, we pretty much have to do it. In fact, if we're going to do what Mark started us off requesting in terms of showing how much we're sticking to state law, town charter, and town bylaws, then this is the way it should be. The chair can serve a maximum of 2 consecutive one-year terms.
Right.
But if I understand, Bob, you're saying we have flexibility to not say anything about the vice chair.
Correct. So you may want to think on that and put it in comments and send them along to me and Gretchen and Evie. Mark, you were about to say something in there, I think.
Discretion is the better part of valor.
You should write that down.
Now, I think that brings us up, unless I was missing something still unresolved about section 1 of Article 3. I think it brings us up to section 2 of Article 3. The chair presides at board meetings and uses Robert's Rules of Order as a guide. In the absence of the chair, the vice chair presides. If the vice chair is unavailable, the chair may appoint another trustee to chair a meeting.
Yeah, no.
Any discussion of that? Hearing none. Section 3 of that article, the chair may appoint, yeah, we just did that, didn't we?
Right.
And I think if I heard you all right, it sounded like we would do committees or working groups as an additional phrase. You like that?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
Okay, that's easy. Let's see. I think then now we're on section 4. The chair, yeah, we just did that too. I'm sorry. But think on whether you want the words "and a vice chair" to be struck out of that sentence. And then, I should explain this one to you. The next thing, section 5. A person designated by the chair shall keep true and accurate minutes of all board meetings. I just, maybe it was just personal preference on my part. I didn't want to refer to a secretary. The part of the 75 stuff I was drawing from has a fairly expansive description of what the secretary secretary's responsibilities are, it's not only to, in the 75 bylaws, not only to keep the minutes, but also to make sure that agendas get posted. And we don't do it that way, obviously.
Right.
So I was trying to come up with the simplest possible way to say that we need true and accurate minutes
Yeah.
of all board meetings.
That's
I
fine.
think it's fine.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay. Article 4, meetings. The board schedules regular monthly meetings, which are open to the public. The majority of the trustees present at a meeting may vote to adjust the regular monthly schedule. Any issues or questions there?
Are you required to make them open to the public? Is that why you added that? Because that wasn't in the old.
It's not a recent requirement that monthly meetings be open to the public. We could drop it, but it would still be true, Jane, that the meetings are open to the public. Again, there were, I think, 3 main reasons or 3 main themes that I wanted to make sure, based on the state's advice, that we covered in all these items. In this particular case, I was seeing this as potentially, maybe optimistically, a reminder to the public and future boards that all of our meetings are indeed open. That's why that's there.
Okay, I just want to know why you added it. And then my other suggestion was that I know it now says that the trustees can vote to make their own schedule. I would recommend, and everybody else can weigh in, that we put a minimum number of meetings in a year, because we really don't want the trustees voting to have no meetings, which is how this reads right now. So
I
I
had
think
the same thought, Jane. Yeah.
Well, Jane and Kathy, can you make a suggestion to me on how to fine tune that?
Well, we have to come up with a number, but I was thinking something like that the board shall hold at least
At least.
X number of meetings per year.
You
Yeah.
could
Is that
put
what
that, you could put that right in section 1 where it said the board schedules at least, 6 or 7 or
Yes.
8 or 9, right there.
Mhm.
Well, let me suggest something more, well, no, I'm not sure what the word is. I was going to say more liberal. What my intent there was to express that the board holds a meeting every month unless it votes otherwise.
Mhm.
Right? So the standard is
that's what it says.
we hold 12 meetings. We would have to vote to shrink that. But yeah, maybe I'm just getting what you're saying, that if a future board voted to shrink it, it could shrink it only so far. Is that the idea?
So we vote this year not to meet in the summer, and then
Right.
next year, like, well, the standard is we don't meet in the summer, so let's
Right.
not meet in June or September either. And then the next year it's
Right.
let's
And
meet-
Jane, we didn't used to meet in the summer.
whatever. I'm just saying, let's put a minimum.
Yeah.
Ken? No fewer than 10 meetings a year?
I guess I want to think about that. I didn't get that far. Can we talk about that next time? I don't know
Sure.
what the number should be.
Yeah, we can come back to that the next time.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea too, because then for a potential candidate, they would know how to plan.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, that's a good point, Lynn. A part of what I was thinking of is that someone may come to us and say, I don't really understand what you folks do. I'd like to help the library, perhaps in this capacity. What is it that you do? And one of the things we would do for them is hand them a copy of the bylaws, so they get the idea.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay, so how are you all feeling? You want to move on to the next section, section 2?
I thought, excuse me, we could finish maybe section 2 and 3, and then save the rest for the next meeting.
Okay, so we're on to section 2, special meetings may be held if authorized by the chair or requested by at least 2 other trustees. Let me pause there. Here, this is new, this is brand new, not just a rewording of the 75 version. And I just picked 2. I knew that there needed to be an alternative to intransigence by the chair on some future issue, and that there needed to be the safety valve of having the trustees being able to call a special meeting. But 2 is a number that I saw in some of the other samples.
Well, the old
It was in
bylaw
the-
said two.
Yeah,
the
the
old
old one said 2, yeah.
So is everybody okay with 2 there?
And we changed it to 72 hours as opposed to a week?
Yes.
Okay,
Monitoring
we do-
communications.
If we do that, I do think we need to say, if you're gonna go from a week to 72 hours, my comment on this was, we must say and acknowledged. Because if you're only gonna give people 3 days, you gotta get an acknowledgement from them, in my opinion. That's just
Right.
my comment. If you give them a week and they don't get back to you, fine. But if you're only gonna give them 3 days, I gotta tell you, I don't see everything within 3 days.
right.
Well, let's see that.
And my
What's the-
children sometimes takes them 2 weeks. So, before they see my notes.
What's the key thing here to you, Jane? It doesn't have to be one thing, but do you want to?
I'm fine with the 72 hours, but I would say must be sent to all trustees and acknowledged at least 72 hours.
Okay,
But I'm open to anything, but I just think if you go from a week to 72 hours, we got to be acknowledged. If you stay at a week, I don't think it has to be acknowledged.
And what is the posting deadline for the agendas? Is that 72 hours?
no,
No.
Jeannie, it's, I think 2 business days, 48 hours.
Okay, all right.
48, yeah. But it has to be business days.
Yeah,
So what we're doing here is partly responding to modern technology. When the 75 bylaws were drafted, you had to mail stuff. Now
right.
we send emails. But yeah, we can get in the thing about having to acknowledge, but we will keep the 72 hours as opposed to 1 week. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
What if,
What was the group's thoughts in shortening that?
I think this particular thing was strictly my thought based on,
Just to make it more modern?
to make it more, to acknowledge that there is in fact email now.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to send it through the mail.
yeah, what if you put just said, a read receipt?
Yeah, that would be fine.
That'd be a great thing. How do you do that?
I don't know how to do it either.
Acknowledge.
Diane,
have
do you
to
know
read
how
it.
to do that?
Laughter from the
Well, the-
younger members of
The
the.
Does
point being, what do you
acknowledge-
mean by
does-
acknowledged? Do you
yeah,
want
does
everyone to
acknowledge-
have to say, yes, I got the email? A read receipt is just, they
Mhm.
opened it, they saw it.
You're in charge of that, Mark, I guess. You're volunteering to be in charge of that.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
I think 72 hours is good also in case there's something of some urgency as opposed to a week.
That was my thought, Jeannie. Yes.
I'm fine with 72 hours. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
And if
Okay.
everybody else doesn't think it has to be acknowledged, that's okay, but that's what struck me.
How, Mark, let me address this to you. We're just talking about the language of the bylaws as opposed to the technical process. Could we not leave it to the chair to figure out how to make the acknowledgement happen?
I think we want, well, I'm going to contradict myself and say that I don't think we want to have the bylaws reflect mechanism as opposed to action.
Right. Plus that could
and-
change, that could all change.
Well,
With
I think that-
technology.
Of course. Would we have written bylaws 30 years ago saying you have to telephone someone and leave a message on their answering machine? I think that just, saying
Just
that,
let them
a
know.
communication must be sent out. And that it's part of the trustee's responsibility to be listening, to be receiving these.
Can't you just leave it at and
And
acknowledged?
acknowledge, yeah. Yes.
However that is? I mean, worst case, you don't hear back from them. You can say, please acknowledge. If they don't, you have to call them up and say, did you get this? You know what I mean? Like that would be the worst case, but I don't know.
Yeah.
You can think about it maybe, but
I
Okay.
wonder if you simply went back a little bit and simply said, for example, the trustees must meet a minimum of 10 times a year and may at their discretion meet additional times for, matters as they may arise.
Well, then Mark, you're setting the bar at 10 meetings a year. Could we not be a little more ambitious and offer ourselves up to the public 12 times a year, or in other
Sure.
words, monthly, and then cut back from there?
Sure. The board shall meet monthly and either add meetings or cancel them at their own discretion.
To a certain limit, which you all will think about over the next month, right? We can cut back somewhat, but only to this point.
Right.
When we've been doing projects, we've met more than once a month. Other times, that's not necessary. I think it becomes kind of the chair and the board's discretion.
the issue with the special meetings is that there's something big happening. And that's why I think the issue is with the acknowledgements is, you've got to let everybody know. You got to give them some notice. You can't just have it and say, we're having it today and whoever gets there, gets there. You got to give them some notice.
Right. Agreed.
Right? And then,
Yeah, because
So
the
the goal is
72
just to
hours
set a minimum standard. Set a minimum standard and then allow for discretion to add more.
right.
All
I'll
right,
do-
I'm going to suggest that we stop there
Yes,
and
please.
think about this more, come back to it next time.
And
Everybody
Kathy,
okay with that? Yeah,
Kathy, looking ahead, given that it's taken us this long to get through the small stuff, and we still have the duties and responsibilities section to go through, I'm thinking that, and hoping you'll agree, that it's unlikely we're going to be voting at the March meeting.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Looks like
Okay.
it's the April meeting.
That's okay. I think we want to get it
I
right.
think it's fine. I mean, we've not done this for a while. We've had the old ones.
Yeah.
In place, and I think this is a big step, and there's a lot of changes. We need to take our time to look at these and get everybody's comments.
I agree with that. And
Oh, we read them.
so just to recap for you, Evie and Gretchen and I will try to get together over the next 2 weeks, go over what you all have said, and I will ask them if, based on that, I should go ahead and try to polish up what we've gotten through so far. Maybe I'll also discover some things about the rest of it. I will aim at getting you an updated version of the bylaws draft a few days before the March meeting.
Okay.
Sound okay?
Yes.
Yeah. And then
All right.
I would suggest that if anyone has comments around either what we've gone through tonight or the remainder of the bylaws, that you send them to Evie or Bob or Gretchen. So that you at least, you have them in your mind and, we can go over them.
Even for the upcoming sections, yes?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Good.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks for your work on this.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but I think it's worth it, modernize our bylaws, so that's a good thing. Okay, public forum, anyone who's on the line who would like to say anything from the public? Hearing nothing. We'll move on to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Okay, is there a second? All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Great. I'm sure there's no one opposed, right? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Kathy.
guys.
Thank you.
Night.
Thank you.
Night, everybody.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.